Hi students, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Dvipika Garg and today we would be covering the second part of basic properties of orthodontic arch wire. I hope you had a great previous session. The things were understood, they were clear. So based on that knowledge, we would be covering few more properties of arch wire which are relatively easier. All you need to do, sit back, relax and enjoy the lecture. Okay, I hope you'll understand the lecture. So let us quickly begin with this. The first thing is the things which we would be covering today is ductility, malleability, soldering, welding, and annealing and hysteresis. I'm sure you all are very much familiar with these terminologies, so we need not dwell much into them, but we'll make sure that things are absolutely clear to you. Right. So the very first concept which we are covering is ductility. What is ductility? Ductility, you all know, is the ability of a material to be stretched into a wire. So if this is the material, what do? You apply force on it. Which force? Tensile forces. Okay, there is tension, stress acting on it. So now you can relate it why this concept is put up in the second part, because in the first part we read about stress and strain. So when the forces were in pulling motion, what was it? Tensional stress. So when this thing happens, what happens? The material gets stretched into a wire. So ability of a material to be stretched into the wire is known as ductility, and what kind of forces are acting on it is tensile force. Generally the materials which are ductile are aluminium, copper and magnesium. Okay, now after ductility we have malleability. What is malleability? It is the ability of a metal to be hammered into thin sheets. So what happens? We have this material, okay, we hammer it so that it can be made into thin sheets. If this is the material, when we apply hammering forces, that is compressive forces on the material, it gets hammered into thin sheets. So what can you relate to? In the previous one, what was happening? Tensile forces were acting on it, and here compressive forces are acting. For example, gold and silver. So this is the basic difference between ductility and malleability, whereas wherein ductility is the ability of a material to be stretched into wire, and this is malleability, which is ability of a metal to be hammered into thin sheets. What kind of forces are acting are also different. Tensile forces are acting on ductile material, and the ones which are malleable, compressive forces are acting on it. Okay, earlier we used to have metals and brackets made up of gold. Okay, but now with advancements coming up, as I mentioned, evolution being there, we have different materials which can be used. So this is the basic properties of ductility and malleability and the basic two difference between them. Next concept is of joinability. I am sure you all are very much familiar with the terms soldering and welding. Okay, when these two terms are combined together, they come under one broad category of joinability. So dear students, please remember, in case in exam they have not mentioned the words joinability, soldering and welding, but if they have used this terminology of joinability, it means they are talking about soldering and welding. So here we do not have to get confused. We should know all the synonyms, plus we should know the broad categories as well. So the broad category of soldering and welding is joinability. Joinability is what? Ability to join material. Correct. So ability to join can be with the help of just one material or with the help of two material. Okay, so this is the concept. What is soldering? Soldering is the procedure of joining two metals. These are two metals. They have to be joined together. So soldering is the procedure where these two materials are joined together with a third material, which is known as filler material. So this is the filler material. Filler material is used here to join these two parts. Okay, and the original parts which have to be joined, the original metal pieces which have to be joined, are known as parent metal. The third metal which is used to join the first two parent metals are known as your filler materials. No, so now what? The basic property of the filler material should be what? The melting point of the filler material should be less than that of parent material. Imagine you are joining these two metals with the help of a third metal in between, and you are applying heat. Okay, so when the melting point of this filler is less than that of parent material, it will easily melt and join the two parent material. But if the melting point is equivalent to that of parent material, all three of them will melt. And in case the melting temperature of your filler material is more than that of parent material, by the time we wait for the filler to melt, my parent material will melt. Okay, so this is what you have to remember in soldering. So what is soldering? It is a procedure of joining two or more metals with the help of a third metal. So this is your parent metal, these two are parent metal, and you're joining it with the help of a filler material. Then next, what is welding? Welding is the procedure of joining two metals without any filler material. There is absolutely no filler material used. These two are joined together by providing heat and pressure. Okay, so difference between soldering and welding, both are the procedure of joining two metals, but in one no third material is used and in one filler material is used. Okay, and the broad terminology for these two is joinability. So joinability, two major things: soldering, welding. Here filler material has to be used, here no filler is used. Okay, both the parent materials are joined together. Now soldering and welding is one thing which are often asked in exam, plus this is something which we do in our clinical practice also. So they won't be asking you the definitions of soldering or welding anything, but what they can ask you is in the form of identify the diagram, identify the figure. Okay, so the first thing which you see here, this is showing you soldering. Okay, the figure which you see over here, it is the figure of a spot welding machine. These spot welding machines are often there in clinics or hospitals. Even if like if people are going to college, if you are an intern, okay, you can go to the laboratory, go to the orthodontic department, go to the laboratory and ask for a spot welder. So you will see such spot welders kept over there. Okay, so what is there? With the help of this setup, we can join two parent material. Similarly, soldering. We have special soldering torches. Do you see what this person is holding? It's a gas torch. What happens? In the right hand, we hold the gas torch and apply heat. This flame must be visible. And on the left hand, we hold the filler material which has to be used to join the two parent material. Okay, the two parent metal have to be joined with the help of filler. So this is a filler and this is heated with the help of a gas torch. This is heated and filled in between the two parent metal. Therefore, we tell you that the melting point of the filler should be less than that of parent metal. Otherwise, when the flame is over here, if my this assembly melts, it is of no use. This assembly of the two parent metal have to be kept constant in that particular method, in that particular way, without hampering any of its properties. Only the filler material has to be melted in between the two parent materials so that the area can be welded. So see this figure properly because it can be asked in your image based questions to identify the diagram which is shown. And in case you have attempted my image based questions part 1, 2, 3 earlier, you must be very much familiar with this because one question was covered in that. Okay, so this is the concept of soldering welding. You know how the gas torch look, you know how the spot welder looks, what is the mechanism, in which material, in which method filler material is used, in which it is not used, what should be the melting range, etc. Okay, and the broad common terminology for this is joinability. Please remember that, important. Next thing, what is formability? Formability is the ability to change the shape of wire into desired configuration. Now, we have a few wires which are pre-formed. It means they are already formed. We need not form them. We need to directly insert into the patient's mouth. Okay, next set of wires are there which are not pre-formed. Okay, there's, for example, we get straight stainless steel arch wires. Okay, imagine this is a straight stainless steel 1725 SS arch wire. Okay, now I want to insert it into the patient's mouth. Okay, so I need to bend it into desired configuration. Okay, I will give it all the bends which are required. Maybe I'll cut the wire into half, then use the turret and give it the arch form. And any modifications which has to be done will be done into this particular arch wire. So this can only be done if my wire is formable, meaning I can bend it according to my whims and fancies, according to my requirement, into what? Into desired configuration. See, each case is different, each patient has different need. One wire fits all does not go in the theory. Okay, we have to form the wire as per the configuration, as per our requirement. Okay, so this is what they are saying. Not all wires are formable. Okay, like for example, nitinol wires, there is a concept of annealing in that, but let us not jump into it first. For example, nitinol wires, we have preformed wires. In case we want to form it, we cannot because it has the property of shape memory and super elasticity. Stainless steel wires are formable wires. So it is the ability to change the shape of wire into desired configuration, that is formability. Ability to form the shape which you want. Okay, simple. Okay, one more thing, since I'm mentioning 1725 and all these things here, I want things to be clear for you people. So let me tell you that wires can be round and rectangle as mentioned in my previous video. So rectangle wires, when I'm saying things like 1622, 1725, 1925, I am talking about my rectangular set of wires. Okay, whenever I am saying things like O12 wire, O14 nitinol, O16 nitinol or O18 nitinol, I am talking about my round set of wires. Okay, so I don't want you people to get confused or stay confused like what is happening. So yes, this is the basic things about wires, round wires and rectangle wires. Next thing, heat treatment. The next property of arch wire is heat treatment. Broad classification first. Heat treatment can either be high heat treatment or it can be a low heat treatment. Okay, if it is a high heat treatment, it is called annealing, and if it is a low heat treatment, it is called tempering. Okay, so annealing and tempering comes under the broad category of heat treatment, just like soldering and welding comes under the broad category of joinability. So there are two broad categories we have done in this particular lecture series. One is joinability and the second is heat treatment. Joinability we saw in depth, consists of soldering and welding. Now let us heat treatment. It consists of what? Annealing and tempering. Okay, so broader statement, heat treatment, two types, high heat, low heat. High heat treatment is known as annealing, low heat treatment is known as tempering. What is done in high heat treatment? That is annealing. Now, imagine we have say O18 nitinol arch wire. So now you all know that O18, when I'm saying it is round. If suppose this is my O18 nitinol arch wire, I am inserting it into the patient's mouth. So what happens beyond my second molar? The wire, suppose this portion of the wire is extending beyond my second molar. So I cannot leave it as it is because it will impinge onto the mucosa. The patient will have irritation, there will be redness, swelling, so I cannot leave it this way. So what has to be done? I cut a little bit of the wire. Okay, so imagine this much portion of the wire has been cut. Oh, I'm sorry, it disappeared. Okay, so this is the wire. Okay, a basic portion of it has been cut from the end, say 2 mm I have cut it. Now still this much length of the wire is remaining. See, this length is still remaining. What do I do of this length? What I do is take the wire out, heat the wire with the help of a gas torch till it turns red. Once it turns red, I quench it by placing it into cold water. After quenching it, I place it back into the patient's mouth. Okay, after placing it back, I have the ability to bend this particular wire from the ends. What I did annealing. So annealing is the procedure of heating the wire till it turns red hot and followed by quenching. This procedure is known as annealing. So when I do this, my wire becomes a little formable, wherein I can just bend the ends of the wire behind my second molar so that they do not impinge on the mucosa. Okay, I hope it is clear. This is high heat treatment called annealing. Very often done in all the patients wherever we are using nitinol wires, because nitinol wires, or say any wire, it cannot be left behind. hanging, okay, because it will impinge on the mucosa. In case we have a stainless steel wire extending beyond my second molar, we can easily bend it from behind. Why? Because it is formable. But my nitinol wire has to be annealed first so that I can bend it from behind. So how do I anneal it? Mark the place from where it has to be bent, heat it till it becomes red hot, followed by immediate quenching. After quenching, placing it back into the patient's mouth, taking a plier and bending the ends. Okay, I hope this is clear. So this is the concept of annealing. Moving on, the next concept is that of tempering. What happens in tempering? It is a low heat treatment. Okay, so a wire is taken and it is heated lightly over the flame. Suppose we have a round wire, maybe you have straightened an arch wire. Okay, in your you are a final year student and you get round wires which have to be straightened or made into form of rectangle, triangle, whatever. So you have that wire which has been partly straightened and you are on the verge of completing it. So when you take that particular wire and heat it over a flame, low heat treatment is done. What happens is all the molecules which are present in the material or in the wire when you were working on the material, or just a second. So when you were working on the material, all the molecules were disorganized. They must be in this manner. Now you take this section and heat it over a flame. This is you applying light heat. What happens? They rearrange themselves, or all the molecules realign themselves. So this is the effect of low heat treatment or tempering, where all the stresses which were induced into the wire are released. And who induced these stresses? We induced these stresses when we were manipulating the wire. So while manipulating the wire, stresses get incorporated into them. When we heat the wire, all the stresses get released, plus there is realignment of the molecules. So this terminology has to be remembered, and that is realignment. All the molecules realign themselves, plus all the stresses which were incorporated into the wire are removed. So this is the procedure of tempering. Okay. So what we saw heat treatment, broadly classified as high heat treatment and low heat treatment. High heat treatment means annealing. Low heat treatment means tempering. What is done in high heat treatment in annealing? For example, if we have a nitinol wire, when we want to bend it, we heat it at a high temperature, quench it, it becomes a little formable and we can bend it. In low heat treatment, our motive is to release all the stresses which are incorporated into the wire, thereby leading to realignment of the molecules. So just a light movement of the wire over the flame, low heat treatment is done to release all the stresses and realign the molecules. I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next concept, hysteresis. Students, this is also a very important concept. Basically, all the things which we are covering today are extremely important and you should be very much thorough with it. Okay, whether it is ductility, malleability, or we talk about joinability or heat treatment. The next important topic to be covered is hysteresis. What is hysteresis? It is the difference between energy required to activate the arch wire and that released by it during deactivation. This is the definition. Now let us understand what is hysteresis. Okay, so my wire or my material exists in two phases. First phase is martensite phase. Second is my austenite phase. So if at room temperature my material is in martensitic phase, what I do, I apply heat. Suppose this is 10 degrees, this is 20 degree, 30 degree, 40 degree, and this is 50 degree. Okay, because this is temperature. So these are my temperature ranges, and this is the increasing percentage. So when I heat the material, which is 100% martensite at room temperature, when I heat it at 50 degrees Celsius, see it is warming. Do you see this? What happens? It gets converted into austenite form. So there is phase transformation which is occurring from martensite to austenite when 50 degrees of heat is supplied. See, 50 is just a number. It is to make you understand. Basically what I'm trying to tell you is phase transformation from martensite to austenite when the wire is heated or the material is heated. So when the material is heated, there is transformation of phase. It will store energy. Whenever I'm giving a wire in the patient's mouth, what I'm doing, I'm activating the wire. How do I activate it? By putting energy into it. I put my energy to activate the wire. So what happens? The wire will store the energy. As soon as the tooth movement starts, the correction starts happening, energy is released. That energy is getting utilized and it is getting released. Okay, which is bringing about the tooth movement. So what happened when I am heating it, it is getting transformed from martensite to phase to austenitic phase. And then what happens? There is release of energy. And then during the cooling phase, it comes from austenitic phase to martensitic phase. But what do you see? There is a decrease in temperature. That is at 30 degrees only, there is conversion of phase, there is a conversion from phase 2 to phase 1. Therefore, the difference between energy which is required to activate the wire and that released by it during deactivation is your hysteresis. Maybe 50 joules of energy was required to take the material from martensitic form to austenitic form. Okay, so when the energy is released and the wire is getting deactivated, that is when I'm converting the material from austenite to martensitic phase. Maybe only 30 joules of energy is required. So this difference in energy, that is 50 and 30, the 20 joules of energy, which is the difference, is known as your hysteresis. Okay, so this is a tricky concept, I understand. You have to try to understand it very well. I'll tell you again. What is hysteresis? Hysteresis is basically phase transformation which is occurring from martensite to austenite, back from austenite to martensite. Maybe I require 50 joules of energy to transform from martensite to austenite. Okay, next. But the amount of energy that is released is less and the material gets converted from austenite to martensite. So there's a difference in energy. I required 50 joules of energy to activate it, but I just require 30 joules of energy to deactivate it. So this difference in energy is known as my hysteresis. Simple. And this is a hysteresis curve. This diagram is your hysteresis curve, which is very important because they can just put up this particular figure, this graph into one of your question, and they might ask you what does this graph indicate. So this temperature difference which you see here, see they have mentioned hysteresis. Why? Because it is going from martensitic phase to austenitic phase at 50 degrees, but it is coming from martensitic phase to austenitic phase to martensitic phase at only 30 degree. Okay, this happens when heat treatment is done and this happens when cooling is done. So M to A is when heating is done. A to M is when cooling is done. Okay, so the difference in the energy is your hysteresis and this is your hysteresis curve. I hope it is clear. Okay, moving on. Next concept is strain hardening. It is also known as work hardening or cold working. These are all synonymous. They can be used interchangeably. So my question to you people, have you done strain hardening? The answer is yes. We all have done strain hardening. When in third and final year, we have been told to bend a wire, make a triangle, make a rectangle, make a round or straighten up a wire or whatever work has been put up for you people. That thing which what you are doing is strain hardening, also known as work hardening or cold working. Okay, what is it? It is a deformation of space lattice of metals by mechanical manipulation at room temperature. This is the wire which you get. You are sitting at room temperature. You are trying to straighten it. So what you are doing? You are doing mechanical manipulation of the wire. When you do this, there is deformation occurring of what? Space lattice of metal. This is the metal and space lattice are there. They are getting deformed. So the thing which you are doing is cold working oblique work hardening oblique strain hardening. Now let me help you relate this concept. Suppose you have straightened a wire now. Okay, you have induced all the stresses into the wire by mechanically manipulating it at the room temperature. Now you go and heat it over a flame, very gentle low heating. What will happen? Number one, all the stresses which I had put into it will be released. Next, there will be realignment of molecules occurring. So basically what is happening here? If you have heard me properly and you have understood the previous concept, one word which should click into your mind right now should be, did it click? If yes, you are thorough with the concepts, congratulations. If not, go back and revise the video. Okay, so strain hardening, work hardening, or cold working is the procedure of deforming the space lattice of metal. How? By mechanical manipulation, and we do it at the room temperature. Okay, so when we take that particular metal, heat it over a flame at low heat, we are tempering that wire, and by tempering we are releasing all the stresses which are stored into the wire. So once the stresses are removed, all my molecules will realign themselves. Okay, so these were two things which you had to remember: release of stress and realignment of molecules. All my molecules realign themselves into a fashioned manner. Okay, so that was low heat concept. That is why low heat was covered earlier, and now we are taking the concept of strain hardening so that you can relate. It is just a way of relation. All the things are related to each other. You just have to pick from one corner of the puzzle and stick it to the other side. Okay, so this is strain hardening. So now if you are a BDS student, next time you are doing you are manipulating a wire, you should know what you are doing. You are work hardening, you are strain hardening, or you are cold working. Okay, take the wire and heat it gently over the flame for very low treatment. Okay, just move it over the flame. What will happen? The stresses will get released. Okay, next. Okay, yeah, very good. So with this, we had covered all the topics which are required for today. There is one more part coming up. Yes, there are few more things which we have to cover, but this one was interesting but a little on the heavier side as well. That's why all these concepts are put together. I'm sure they were very much new concepts for you. Few things were really new. So yes, let us just quickly revise. Ductility, done. Malleability, done. Soldering and welding, done under the common brand name or the broad term of joinability. Then we saw annealing and we even saw tempering under the broad category of heat treatment. Then hysteresis, okay, where hysteresis curve is very important. Students, you should know it very well. Malleability, joinability, we did formability. Yes, heat treatment, remember the two broad categories, annealing and tempering. How to use, when to use. Just remember this particular diagram very much properly. The difference in the energy is known as hysteresis. This can be asked, you have to label the diagram then. Okay, do not get confused with stress strain curve or any other curve. This is hysteresis diagram. And the last thing which we saw was strain hardening. So I hope things are clear to you. If you have any query, get back to me. You know what you have to do is write down your doubt in the comment section below and just prepare well. Okay, basic properties of orthodontic arch wire is a tough topic. I get you, and it is an important topic. So we'll be covering bits and portions of it. I won't be bombarding you with all the knowledge at one go in a particular lecture series. No, there are 3 lectures scheduled for it. First one has been uploaded. This is the second one. There is one more coming up to you. And then maybe we can do a round of MCQs to just lighten up a little. Yes, and if there is any particular topic which you people want me to cover specially, do let me know. Otherwise, we'll be starting maybe with myofunctional appliances, because that is also one thing which is very important. So all the best, students. I hope you have subscribed to the channel and you are getting a notification whenever I'm uploading a video. In case you have not, you can do it now, because there's a lot of things to look forward to. Ask your friends. I hope you're liking the video. Ask them to subscribe as well and listen to the videos, gain the knowledge. All the very best. Thank you.